Good evening. Welcome to the Livonia Public Schools Board of Education regular meeting of August 22nd, 2022. Mrs. Bradford, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Acosta.
Here.
Mrs. Bonifield's not here this evening. Mr. Centers?
Here.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mrs. Bradford says here. President Burton?
Here, and we have a quorum. Mr. Johnson, would you please help us with the Pledge of Allegiance?
My pleasure. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome to our meeting this evening. This evening's meeting is a regular meeting, or as some would refer to as a voting meeting. What we mean by that is that the items that are coming before the Board of Education have typically been discussed at least 2 other meetings prior to tonight. Therefore, you may not see the level of discussion that you might expect before we vote on some very important issues. Please understand that it is not because we take these items lightly, but rather because we have discussed them at length in previous meetings. If you would like to see any of those discussions, or if you would like to see any other previous meetings, you can find them on our website, which is livoniapublicschools.org. If you hover over the board tab, you can drop down to meeting information, and there you can find videos of previous meetings. You can also attend any committee of the whole meetings, which is where we do most of our in-depth discussion on items that are coming before the board for a vote. If you're here this evening and you'd like a copy of our agenda, and you may not have gotten one, they are just out the door to my left. There's a table out there where you'll find agendas, and you'll also find forms for audience communication. If you are at home and you're watching and you'd like to follow along with an agenda, you can find that also on our website, again, livoniapublicschools.org. Hover over the board tab, and under board meeting information, you'll find our agendas. We do teach character traits to our children in our school, and at the top of that list is respect. You have our word as a Board of Education that we will treat one another and everyone who comes before this board this evening with respect. And we ask that everyone who's participating in our meeting this evening do the same, and we thank you for that. We're going to get right into the items on our agenda this evening. We are on to item 3, communications, and 3A is the district update from the superintendent. So I will turn it over to Mrs. Oquist.
Thank you so much, President Burton, and I believe that is going to come up on the screen in just a moment. Here we are. We have some highlights from this summer, and then of course we are preparing to kick off the year. So here we go.
This moment of silence brought to you by.
Point it at that.
We're having a little bit of technical difficulty, so hold
There
on.
we go.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you. So one of the things we certainly wanted to highlight for the board and for our community were the tremendous offerings through Learning in L-Town, and that's what we called our summer programming. So while you will not see pictures here from all of the programming, we had programming anywhere from pre-K to post-secondary. It included formal learning options, both virtual and in-person, and a number of camp-based options, which all rotated around a STEM theme. So I want to first thank our academic services department, each member of that team, along with all of the staff and administrators who helped provide these opportunities for our students. So you'll see some great photos as we move through here of students having many, many hands-on experiences, opportunities to read books that go along with the theme, many of those STEM-based themes that our students could explore that were just of high interest to them and high engagement. We have heard from many parents this summer that both the camp activities, which were 2 weeks in length for grades 2 through 8, as well as the K-1 camps at each of our K-4 schools. And you'll see on these next few slides, the Family Learning Friday, so whether it was Mad Science or the Ann Arbor Hands-On Museum, we literally had hundreds of students who came through either with their families or with their friends to participate in these events. So we had over 2,000 students participating throughout the course of this summer. And of course, we also had our extended school year program at Webster for our students with special needs, we provide through that program and through our staff the opportunity for our students to stay immersed in their routines and learning opportunities and be engaged in school throughout the summer, as well as our formal programming for our high school for credit recovery. So many different programs, and we saw success for students throughout. As you know, we are undergoing some major bond renovations. We have 5 schools undergoing significant renovations of the media centers, the kitchens, their AC installation, restroom renovations. But we also have much planning going on with regard to our robotics center, our LCTC edition, and our early childhood center. So you'll see just a few pictures here, and we can't forget our some of our sinking fund improvements as well. So we are just opening this week our new Stevenson tennis courts. It's a 10-court site with new fencing, absolutely beautiful. And of course, I will say our playgrounds are getting a lot of use. So as you know, we made significant updates throughout last year and finished up in the spring playgrounds at our elementary schools, and those have been widely used by our community throughout the summer and have brought a lot of enjoyment as well. You'll see in the center a restroom, an example of a restroom renovation. Up at the top, the Cooper office area is just being completed this week. So quite a bit happening. There aren't too many pictures yet of those new media centers and kitchens. We actually, in construction time, the next 2 weeks is in, is in dog years. We still have a lot of time left between now and the start of school. So if you're visiting one of our schools and it looks like there is a lot still to be done, that's true. But we still have a couple weeks before we welcome our kiddos. With the exception of Niji Iro, who started last week. So we had our Niji Iro Japanese Immersion Elementary School open last Thursday, and President Burton, Mr. Green, and I, along with members of our team here at Central Office, had an opportunity to watch the traditional welcome ceremony. So in Japan, it's tradition to welcome students into first grade, but because we start at kindergarten, our students had the opportunity to come up. They came in very excited about the day. They came right in, and then you'll see the 2 flags there and the Niji Iro sign, and each of the students came up. They were introduced to the school community. Their parents had a chance to take a picture, and the PTA was there, and I think the entry area for parents was called, do you remember?
Boohoo.
Yahoo?
Yoo-hoo, boohoo.
Boohoo.
Yes.
So Yahoo, students are going back to school. Boohoo, because sometimes when you're letting your little one go for the first time, there might be a few tears. But the wonderful parent volunteers at Niji Iro were welcoming their fellow parents, and it was just a great morning. So congratulations to Principal DeLuca and the whole staff over at Niji Iro. We have had a lot of staff professional development for our leaders. Our administrative team had 2 great events last week. We had our ALT kickoff on Friday, and then the Tuesday prior, we had an opportunity to engage with leaders from across the region, from Novi and Northville, Garden City, and of course our district. We had all of our leaders together, and this is the whole group over there. And we had an opportunity to hear Jimmy Casas. As you know, we've brought Jimmy Casas into the school district before. He came and gave a message on his new book called Handle with Care. So we've had a lot of opportunities to really engage and learn and lead together with our administrators, and we are excited about the year ahead. Fall athletics is underway. You'll see a number of photos already going on. School has not started. Athletics has. So we'd like to congratulate Natalie Bates. She had her first hole-in-one during a recent coach-player scramble. So a junior Charger, and she had a great happy day there. We have volleyball happening, and we have a big battle at the Big House this Friday. We have our Churchill football team who will be going up against Plymouth at the Big House. So we will be at the University of Michigan, and I know our students are excited to play on the field, and our band excited to be in the stands. And I also thought I'd share that we, as you know, we have our new athletic directors, and one of the things that is being encouraged is that other athletic teams visit athletic events of students who aren't in season, while they're not in season. And so on the bottom left there, you see a picture of the Stevenson hockey team last Friday night cheering on the cross-country teams from across the city at the Lamplighter Invitational. And this was the annual cross-country Lamplighter event. The winner of the entire event was a Stevenson student, Layla. She is right in the center there. And then we had teams from our high schools and high schools from all across the region. So we had both junior varsity and varsity, and I think the varsity took off at 10:30 Friday night. So good thing they have the energy of not only being a runner, but being a teenager. Stevenson had their annual fall cleanup. Doesn't it look beautiful? We were over, Mr. Francis and I were over there today to meet with our transportation team, and it really did look beautiful as you walked up to the entrance there. But they have, through the Booster Club, they do a lot of work and have a lot of volunteers. So they cleaned up all of the beds and the areas in the front and the back, and they are ready to roll. I think I clicked through a couple. I'm going to hop back here. There we go. So we are calling this Click Into the August Dialogue. As you know, we have had challenges with the paper supply for the type of paper we need in order to run our dialogue through the mail. It's a pretty large, it's a 16-page newsletter, and it requires a certain kind of paper. And so this August dialogue would not have been printed until late September, which is not very helpful to our families. And so we, Mrs. Jenkins, thanks to the suggestion of Mrs. Bonifield, she had talked about having a QR code readily available. And so this postcard is going out to 55,000 homes and businesses. It will have the QR code for the August dialogue, and then it's also being widely shared as students register or as they come to the Bounce Back event next week, and so we can get word out about all of the important information in our back to school dialogue. You might also see, please check your mailboxes for the Livonia Today magazine. They are always featuring wonderful stories created by Mrs. Jenkins, and so you'll see a story in there about our unified sports camp at Churchill that I shared with you last month, and a highlight on some of our new administrators within the school district. Always a reminder that we are hiring, and I'm going to specifically highlight these roles: food service, noon lunch monitors, bus drivers, childcare staff, both at Jackson Center and in our SAC program, custodial support, and substitute teachers. So many of these areas all of these areas have very competitive wages, and we would encourage you to check out the careers tab at livoniapublicschools.org. So I already mentioned the Battle at the Big House. If you are interested in that, please see the Churchill website for ticket information. It's a noon kickoff on Friday. And then this Wednesday, it is Bounce Back to School. So it is back. We are hoping to see hundreds of our youngsters there for face painting and balloon animals, a petting zoo, horse rides, and of course the inflatables. So that will be held at Riley Upper Elementary this Wednesday, 5 to 8 p.m. And all of the proceeds go to the LPS Education Foundation. And I'd like to thank many folks in this room who are going to be serving as volunteers for that special event. The Churchill Unity Fun Run, all of the students within the Churchill Triad are invited to participate in the Unity Fun Run on Saturday, September 10th. It will start at 9 a.m. at Frost Middle School. We also have our school tours coming up this week. So Wednesday's a big day. Besides Bounce Back, we also have at our K-4 schools tours for new families. So you do not need to make an appointment. You can simply show up, and there will be friendly faces there to greet you and take you around the school and have an opportunity to visit. So you would either arrive at 10 or at 5. The tours will start right on time, and will finish up within the hour. Our Livonia Warriors Robotics team is hosting a special screening of a film called Underwater Dreams. That's going to be held in the Churchill PAC September 7th at 6 p.m. If you'd like more information, that's available on our website. And of course, we cannot wait to welcome all of our kiddos back for Tuesday, September 6th. We have our first day of school, It is so important that families complete the enrollment confirmation online. This is a new process. We have about 8,000 of our families who have completed that process, so we have a number still to go. It's very important. This replaces the annual pink card. So it is all available online. It is easy to do. There are step-by-step instructions, so that has been emailed out. We've done robocalls, and it has been sent out by all of the schools in addition to the district. But please help spread the word. If you have a friend in the district, the enrollment confirmation online is a very important piece for us. So President Burton, those are just a few highlights as we get ready to kick off this wonderful school year ahead.
Thank you so much. It's as much as we all hate to see summer go, it's exciting to see all the fun school things starting back up again.
Yes, we are ready to roll.
All righty. We are on to item 3B, written communications. Do any audience member, or do any board members rather have written communications that they need to share with the board? No? All righty. We are on item 3C, response to prior audience communications, of which I have none. We are on item 3D, audience communications. I do not have any blue slips. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to participate in audience communications this evening? Seeing none, we will move on. Next item on our agenda is item 4, our consent agenda, and may I have a motion, please?
President Burton,
Mrs. Jarvis.
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve the following consent agenda items as recommended by the superintendent. 5A, minutes of the regular meeting of August 1st, 2022. 5B, minutes of the special meeting of August 1st, 2022. 5C, minutes of the closed session of August 1st, 2022. And 6A, approval of 2022-2023 tuition rate.
Support.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mrs. Jarvis, supported by Mr. Centers. Do any board members have items that they wish to take off the consent agenda for further discussion before we vote on this item? Seeing none, we have a motion for the consent agenda by Mrs. Jarvis, supported by Mr. Centers. And Mrs. Bradford, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Jarvis.
Yes.
Mr. Centers.
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Abstain.
Mrs. Bradford says yes. President Burton.
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 7, business matters, and 7B is the approval to purchase furniture for the teaching staff 2021 bond. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton,
Mr. Centers.
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve the recommendation from the owner's representative, Plant Moran Cressa, to approve the purchase, removal, and installation of furniture for district teaching staff from Interior Environments, Novi, Michigan, and Yo Computer Consulting, Saginaw, Michigan, for a total amount not to exceed $2,851,254, which includes contingency.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Centers, supported by Mr. Johnson. And Mr. Francis, I believe you'll be helping us with this item tonight?
Yes, President Burton, thank you very much. Before I begin, I'd like to introduce a couple of folks that are in our audience today that have put quite a bit of work in partnership with Livonia Public Schools on this project for the teaching staff furniture. Steve Koji and Barry Pfeiffer from Interior Environments in Novi, Michigan. We've probably heard Interior Environments quite a bit throughout the years here in Livonia Public Schools. We've been partnering with them on many different projects, and this is clearly not the least of those projects because we have quite a bit of furniture that we're looking to replace. Starting off, want to let the folks who are tuning in and maybe hearing this information the first time understand that this is a planned purchase from the 2021 bond initiative. This is actually something that was originally in the scope of the 2013 bond and was deferred by teachers on the furniture committee to enable the district at that time to purchase 100% of the student furniture that was needed in the last bond initiative. So they punted a little bit on their own items in lieu of getting them for students. So at this time, we're now coming back to fulfill that original plan, and we have really office-style furniture, if you will. Just for those who have not heard of this previously, we're not talking about student furniture, we're not talking about soft seating, we're talking about teachers, counselors, psychologists, social workers, support teachers, et cetera, replacing the old desks, the old chairs that they have, the storage boxes that usually come with desks, those types of items. This is office-style furniture for the classrooms and offices in our schools for teaching staff. And once again, I'm just going to say this to clarify because it comes very confusing even to our teachers. When I say the word teacher, I don't just mean classroom teachers. We are talking about whether you teach art, social studies, third grade, or whether you're a counselor at a high school, an elementary support teacher at a K-4, a psychologist, a special education teacher, on and on and on. All the folks in our LEA unit are involved with this purchase. Just to lay that out there as clearly as I possibly can for everybody. So this new furniture will replace items that are, and I think many of you have seen these items, well beyond their original life span. So we have partners in interior environments, and we have one item that we're able to procure from Yo-Yo Computing Consulting that actually was even lower than we could get through interior environments. No offense. And so between these two companies, we will be getting all of the furniture that will be going into the spaces in our schools. And this will be a multi-month project to be logistically ordering, receiving, building, in a truck, bringing them over, removing the old items, replacing them with the new items throughout all of our school buildings. So this will be taking us, like I said, multiple months throughout the fall and into the winter to get it throughout the entire district. But we are very excited. We had mock-ups here in the building, in the central office building, of these desks and items. Teachers who came to see them were very excited. We had a survey for them. They filled them out, lots of positivity. And we're excited to get the ball rolling on this. So we do recommend this purchase, and we want to press forward.
Terrific, thank you. This is one of the items that we talked at length about at our last meeting, but it is very exciting to get some of this furniture in that's long overdue. Are there questions or comments from the superintendent or board members on this item? Seeing none, thank you so much to Barry and Steve for all of your work on it. It's a district this large, that is no small undertaking, and it is very appreciated. And we don't purchase it every couple of years, so when we buy it, we want it to last for a good long time. So, thank you. We have a motion then, Item 6B, motion for approval to purchase furniture for teaching staff, 2021 bond. Motion by Mr. Centers, supported by Mr. Johnson. And Mrs. Bradford, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford says yes. Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 7, instruction, and 7A is recommend expulsion for one secondary student. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton,
Mrs. Acosta.
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District expel one secondary school student for violations of the Livonia Public Schools Board of Education policies.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Acosta, supported by Mr. Centers. Are there questions on this item? No. Seeing none, we have the motion for recommend expulsion for one secondary student. Motion by Mrs. Acosta, supported by Mr. Centers. And Mrs. Bradford, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford says yes. Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
President Burton?
Yes. And that motion passes. The next item is item 8, personnel matters, and 8A is teachers for approval. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton?
Mrs. Bradford.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District accept the recommendation of the superintendent and offer employment for the 2022-2023 school year to the teachers listed on the attached document.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Bradford, supported by Mrs. Jarvis for teachers for approval. And Mr. Abate and Mrs. Keats.
Hello, good evening. Thank
Good
you.
evening.
So the prospective new staff members we're presenting to the board this evening have been selected to fill our needs in areas such as special education, speech and language, music, behavior intervention, and general elementary instruction. They're all well qualified to fill these positions. They've been fully vetted through our interview process, and we're confident they will perform at a high level and represent Livonia Public Schools in a manner that is consistent with our shared vision and collective commitments. These positions have been included in the 2022-2023 budget as well. We're pleased to be recommending these talented professionals to join our LPS family, and with your approval, we are excited to have them working with our students.
Thank you very much. Are there questions or comments from the superintendent or board members?
Welcome aboard.
Yes, absolutely. We are excited to have all of you folks, and so excited that everyone can get in and get settled before the school year starts. So hit the ground running. We have a motion for teachers for approval, a motion by Mrs. Bradford, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. And Mrs. Bradford, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Bradford says yes. Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. Our next item is item 8B, teachers for tenure. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton,
Mr. Johnson.
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District accept the recommendation of the superintendent and acknowledge that tenure status has been granted to the following teachers effective on the respective date. Here we go. Laura Allmayer, August 29th, 2022. Mary Baharosian, August 29th, 2022. Paul Bottorff, August 28th, 2022. Thomas Cittafelli, August 31st, 2022. Michelle Ellis, August 29th, 2022. Christina Emick, August 29th, 2022. Heather Field, August 31, 2022. Janice Filiatro, August 31, 2022. Leah Gagnon, August 29th, 2022. Heather Held, August 31, 2022. Sarah Hurley, August 30th, 2022. Megan Johns, August 29, 2022. Sarah Kroll, August 29th, 2022. Casey Loisel, August 29th, 2022. Mallory Matson, August 29th, 2022. Christine McQuiston, August 30th, 2022. Catherine Mullett, August 29th, 2022. Amanda Olson, August 31, 2022. Jessica Reef, August 30th, 2022. Stephanie Roser, August 29, 2022. Shaylin Safadine, August 29, 2022. Kayla Schaff, August 29, 2022. Stephanie Shepler, August 29, 2022. And Ronald Stewart, August 29, 2022.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Johnson, supported by Mrs. Acosta. Let me see here. Mrs. Keats and Mr. Abate.
Good evening, everyone. Our teachers for tenure on this agenda have successfully completed the district's requirements for probationary teachers, including years of service, evaluations, overall performance, and documentation of student growth. We have carefully reviewed all supporting materials along with recommendations of our building administration and have verified that they should be granted tenure status with the Livonia Public Schools. We wish to offer our congratulations for reaching this milestone and look forward to their continued success working in LPS.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions from the superintendent or board members? Absolutely. It's no small undertaking, and we take it very seriously. So we're happy to acknowledge that this has been granted, and we really celebrate with all these teachers. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we have a motion for teachers for tenure. Motion by Mr. Johnson, supported by Mrs. Acosta. And Mrs. Bradford, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford says yes. Mr. Centers?
Yes.
President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 8C, leaves of absence. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mrs. Jarvis.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the requests for a leave of absence as listed below. Sarah Koch, August 30th, 2022, for the 22-23 school year. Sarah Sparrow, August 30th, 2022, for the 22-23 school year. Laura Stevens, August 30th, 2022, for the 22-23 school year. April Houlihan, August 30th, 2022, for the 22-23 school year.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Jarvis, supported by Mrs. Bradford. Mr. Abate, Mrs. Gates.
Yes, thank you. So the staff members listed in your documentation, as you have described, are requesting leaves for the 22-23 school year, and their requests have been made in accordance with their collective bargaining agreements. So we ask that you please approve their leave time.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments from board members or the superintendent? Seeing none, we have a motion for leaves of absence. Motion by Mrs. Jarvis, supported by Mrs. Bradford. And Mrs. Bradford, will you please take the roll?
Mrs. Jarvis.
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford says yes. Mrs. Acosta.
Yes.
Mr. Centers.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
President Burton.
Yes, and that motion passes. Item 8D is resignations, and the board does not need to vote on that item. It's for information purposes only. Item 8E is retirements. May I have a motion, please?
President Burden.
Mr. Centers.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District adopt the attached resolutions of appreciation for services rendered by Sarah Heyman, Michael Kroll, Kathleen Urbanowitz.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Centers, supported by Mrs. Acosta. Mr. Abate and Mrs. Gates.
Hello again.
Hello.
Tonight we honor and congratulate 3 members of our LPS family who are retiring from their positions within LPS. As these staff members leave the district, they take with them a combined total of 53 years of experience. On behalf of the administration, I would like to thank these wonderful staff members for their dedicated years of service they have provided to the students here. We ask the board to please adopt the attached resolution of appreciation for our retirees.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions from the board members or the superintendent? Mrs. Oquist?
Well, we congratulate them. We absolutely wish them well, and we thank them for all that they've given to Livonia Public Schools, our students, and our schools.
Absolutely. Any other comments or questions? Yeah, the retirements, as this comes to us on a somewhat regular basis throughout the year as our folks do retire, it is always very bittersweet. We will be so sad to see some of these folks leaving our district, and at the same time, we wish you well on your next chapter and excited for you to see what fun stuff you get to do between 9 and 5 now. Again, motion for retirements. The motion is by Mr. Centers, supported by Mrs. Acosta. Mrs. Bradford, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Centers.
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta.
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford says yes. President Burton.
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 9, hearing from board members, and 9A is the first reading of board policy KEA, public performances, assemblies, and/or exhibitions. This is a first reading on this item, and we are not going to be taking a vote on it at this time. Mrs. Jenkins, I understand you'll be addressing this for us.
Yes, thank you, President Burton. This is a continuation of our review of the General Public Relations section of Board Policy. KEA has been, the recommended changes or modifications include clarifying the title, first of all, from student activities to general public relations, in keeping with consistent with other policies within this section. Another clarification was that I'll read as proposed: all public performances, assemblies, and/or exhibitions presented to students shall be recommended by the school or district leadership and approved by the superintendent or designee. So we wanted to clarify that this pertains to those performances, assemblies, and/or exhibitions presented to the student body.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there comments or questions from board members? No. Seeing none, Mrs. Bradford, can you put this on our agenda for the next general voting meeting for a vote at that time?
Yes.
Thank you. And in the meantime, if there are any, I doubt it, but if there are any suggestions or modifications on this, you can get them to Mrs. Oquist, and that way she can make sure that they are disseminated to the whole board before the vote of at the next meeting. The next item on our agenda is item 9B, approval for board members to attend MASB's Annual Leadership Conference and take classes October 20th through 23rd, 2022. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton,
Mrs. Acosta.
move that the Board of Education, of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve that board trustees attend MASB's Annual Leadership Conference in Acme, Michigan, October 20th through 23rd, 2022, and take MASB classes. Trustees Madeline Acosta and Karen Bradford will participate for a total cost of approximately $1,134, which includes overnight accommodations.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Acosta, supported by Mr. Centers. And Mrs. Oquist, I understand you'll be addressing this item.
Thank you, President Burton. We are always pleased to bring these items to you because it means that not only are our board members continuing to give of their own time and volunteer effort to continue to grow and develop as leaders of our school district, but we also know that we become the beneficiaries of that knowledge. So we appreciate our trustees who will be attending this annual leadership conference. MASB certainly provides outstanding educational and leadership development. Our board policy BBBC does require that we bring this to the board for approval prior to attendance.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, we have a motion for approval for board members to attend MASB's Annual Leadership Conference and take classes October 20th through 23rd, 2022. Motion by Mrs. Acosta, supported by Mr. Centers. Mrs. Bradford, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Acosta.
Yes.
Mr. Centers.
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford says yes. Mrs. Jarvis.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
President Burton.
Yes. And that motion passes. The next motion is item 9C, approval of payment for board members' participation in MASB Legal Workshop on August 11th, 2022. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mrs. Bradford.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve a payment of $99 be made to MASB for Board President Colleen Burton's participation in the MASB Legal Workshop on August 11th, 2022.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Bradford, supported by Mr. Centers. Mrs. Oquist.
Thank you, President Burton. So similar to the prior item, our board policy does require board approval for any expenditures made for board member participation in workshops. We did not have a regular board meeting prior to this attendance, so this took place on August 11th, but we will be making payment upon approval from the board for President Burton to have participated in the MASB Legal Workshop.
Are there any comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, we have a motion for approval of payment for board members' participation in MASB Legal Workshop on August 11th, 2022. Motion by Mrs. Bradford, supported by Mr. Centers. Mrs. Bradford, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Bradford says yes. Mr. Centers.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis.
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta.
Yes.
President Burton.
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is hearing from board members. Are there any board members who have anything that they would like to share at this time? Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, President Burton. I just want to emphasize and make sure the community keeps in mind that we have our bounce back to school on Wednesday at Riley Upper Elementary, beginning at 5 o'clock. So hopefully we'll see a lot of you folks out there at that time. The weather is supposed to be pretty good. So
Terrific. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? This may be one of the shortest board meetings on record for a general meeting. We have reached the end of our agenda this evening, and we are now adjourned. We wish you the wonderful short remainder of your summer, and soon a welcome back to school. Have a nice evening. We are now adjourned.